and let's get to it. So he starts off with the normal moves. So I've seen this presentation several times, so I may skip ahead a little bit in terms of what I'm talking about. But his normal moves, basically, it looks like what Sakurai's saying here too, is that they come out slow. But honestly, if you're looking at them, these seem to come out pretty fast, honestly. But he's saying that the advantage of them is that they have long-lasting hitboxes, which is really powerful because that means you'll be able to throw out your moves sooner or earlier than others, and your hitbox will still last. Which basically means you're going to be able to throw out your moves early to kind of stun out any approach options depending on what's going on, and your hitbox is still going to last. So it's basically very safe, right? It's basically you'll be able to throw out Sora's sword and not have much risk, is what he's saying. And once again, his animation seems pretty fast too anyways, so that's even better. And what he's going over here is that you have a 3-hit combo. So the reason that's good is that not only do you have a sword in the sword range, right? But you can swing that sword up to 3 times without actually having to hit anything. So, you know how if you ever played a sword character, if you do proper spacing, you're pretty much throwing out attacks at a certain distance, right? Whether on their shield or not, to try to land a hit, right? With Sora, you don't have to just throw out one attack. You can throw out 1, 2, or 3. And they come out super, super fast. So not only does this give you a lot of mix-up options, but it lets you just wall people out. You're pretty much throwing out a sword range hitbox 3 times in a row at a super fast rate. It's going to be very hard for some characters to be able to get through that. And let's see here. Yeah, so what he's going to show here is that, or in a bit as well, is that what you're also able to do is, depending on your combo hits, if you stop at the second, the launch power changes. This will be good for certain combos and like certain reads. And then also, so he's getting into the tilt attacks now. I'll come back to my presentation, I guess, on his multi-hits in a bit, so that way we can move forward in line with what he's showing. So his tilt attacks look very powerful. That up tilt right there came out super fast. Basically puts a giant shield over your head and it scoops. A lot of situations you can use that in. This down tilt looks like it also comes out really fast. It puts them into a combo starter move because it puts them right over your head. Yeah, if you can see how fast you can act out of all of these animations, like he just immediately went from a down tilt into an up tilt. That's actually what, in my opinion, is going to make the Sora super strong. It looks like all of his moves, you can act out of them extremely quickly, which means he's going to be able to throw out all these moves, these long-range moves with long-lasting hitboxes. And even if he misses, you're not going to have much time to punish him for basically anything. That's going to be very fun to play as, and let's say, quote-unquote, fun to play against. So we went over the smash attacks right there. Looks like they have pretty good range. A lot of good knockback power. The startup isn't too slow. This is something manageable. And depending on the cooldowns, like how fast can you do something afterwards, they could also be extremely safe too. Just because since he has long-lasting hitboxes, you can throw them out early. That way your animation ends early too, because you started your animation sooner. And if the ending is also sooner, you'll be able to do something pretty quick afterwards. This down smash, let's see, he may do something out of his animation so we can see how fast it is. I can't tell in terms of his animations on his smash attacks how quickly he can do something outside of them. But once again, he can start his animations up early because his hitboxes last long, which means that with proper timing, he may be able to act quickly out of his smash attacks. So he's going over the aerials right now. The back aerial looks pretty standard. Looks pretty, somewhat slow, but, given its sword range. And once again, the fact that he has long-lasting hitboxes, you can throw it out early. So with proper spacing and his floatiness, it's going to be probably a pretty safe and awesome move too. This up air looks pretty good, pretty standard for a sword character. But once again, the long-lasting hitboxes are going to make this probably more powerful than your standard sword characters' aerials. This down air, I actually like it. I enjoy down airs that kind of give you an option to get to the ground pretty quick. They're very niche use. It's like Sephiroth's down air. You don't always use them, but in the situations, depending on what's going on, they're very powerful to also have. And his kind of hits all the way around him too. It's kind of like if you use Mithra's neutral air or Pyra's and you do a fast fall. These throws look pretty standard. I like their animations a lot. Looks like a lot of fun to use. Looks like he has a lot of combo throws, actually. You know, if they're in the middle of the stage, you may want to throw them into the air because, once again, Sora's domain is the air, according to Sakurai. If they're on the side of the stage, you can either do a back air or forward air, depending on which way you're facing, to get them off stage and do a lot of edge guarding. Or you can do a down throw to start up some combos. So we're going to go into the specials right now. So this is his magic. His magic, he's got the Fire-ga, Thunder-ga, and Blizz-ga, and they rotate in order. So after you use Fire, you have to use Thunder next. After Thunder, you have to use the Ice next. The Fire, he's going to show it here. You can actually hold it down and it'll shoot out multiple fireballs. This is actually really powerful. I'll go over this at the end too, but basically this rotation of spells is very nice because while the Fire and Thunder do have startups on their animations, right? At a certain range, depending on the character matchup, you're pretty much going to be able to spam this fireball and force them into the air, right? And once they're, see right there, that Ness had to jump. And you can, see how he shot that fireball and acted so quickly afterwards. And that dash attack right there looked like a super fast frame with a lot of long-lasting hitboxes. So you're able to act out of these spells super, super quick. So you're pretty much going to be able to spam this fireball and force them to approach you. And depending on how they approach you, they're going to have to burn some type of resource. And for example, you could force them into the air with the Fire, and then follow up with your Thunder immediately afterwards, and maybe force an air dodge out of them. And if they do happen to get close to you after getting through the Fire and the Thunder, now you're at your Ice spell. And your Ice spell is what he's showing right here. He's saying it has narrow attack range, but look how much distance is in between them. It gives you so much horizontal space. And it also kind of hits above you too, so if they fall into your sword, they'll also be staggered. But what's really crazy about this move is how fast this Ice spell comes out. So this is his close range spell, definitely. So basically, you can force them to approach with your Fire and Thunder and burn a lot of their resources, and then now you have this super close range spell that's going to be very valuable to you once they do get up close. So that's going to be pretty nasty. So basically with these spells, Sora has a good mid to long range game. And he's, depending on the character, he's going to be able to force options out of you. Now, obviously, as he's showing, if you have counters, right, you may be able to do something. I do feel like this fireball spam, though, even on some counters, those counters aren't going to be enough. But with some counters, for example, like Joker's counter, whether he's an Arsene form or not, or like Wolves and stuff, obviously they can just hold it down infinitely, so you won't be able to use the Fire like that. You can still get a fireball on them, but you won't be able to spam it and basically force them to approach you. But some characters, man, they're just gonna have to jump over the fireball and then dodge the Thunder and then deal with your sword and your Blizz-ga spell up close. This character is looking pretty nice, is what I'll say. So these are his taunts. Pretty nice that they kept true to the character and showed all of his other spells through his taunts. That's pretty cool. I like that animation and that addition to the character. So his side special looks like it's Sonic Blade. Basically, you go in one direction on the first hit, looks like to the side, and then you can go in any direction you want after that. And you can also lock onto the enemies to be able to hit them. This is a very powerful spell. Obviously, as you can see, there's a lot of recovery options you can do with it. Once they're in the air, there's going to be a lot of combos you can do in conjunction with your Keyblade and your magic and your up B, which he's going to get to in a bit. Some counterplay to this, though, is that that first one does come out pretty fast. You're going to be able to get some pretty cool hits with it too. But some counterplay to it, though, is that you always know that he's going to go, that he's going to go horizontal for the first move. And then depending on his angle, when he's trying to recover, he's going to have to potentially snap the ledge. So you can just wait for that third strike to try to edge guard him. But it also depends on the angle, though. But in general, though, he's going to have a really good recovery that's going to be hard to contest when you combine it with his floatiness and his high double jump. And then his up B, which is shown right here, which is aerial speed. I really like this move because he's going to show it. It's like Link's. And it looks like they start at the same animation, which means Sora has now the shield option through this up B, which is very good because that means he's even better close range now, because if you hit his shield, he's going to hit you with this up B that kills. And what's even better that he's about to show is that it's a pretty safe move in certain situations, because yeah, he's saying it right here that once you up B, you can go into your Sonic Blade, which is very good, which means you can throw out the up B. If it doesn't land, that's okay, because you can do a mix-up on your recovery to get back to the stage. So you're not going to go into a free fall animation. And like he's showing there, it's going to help with your recovery to stage and your edge guarding as well. But it seems like you can only do the Sonic Blade after the aerial sweep. Like you can't do Sonic Blade and then aerial sweep. So that's a good balancing thing, because then your opponent knows that in the order of stuff you can do, that depending on what's going on anyways, in terms of your up B and your side B, if you want to do both of those, you have to do your up B first. Now obviously you can do your side B if you want to, but if you do your side B, I don't think you'll be able to use your up B to get back to the stage, right? So that's a good balancing consideration right there. But like I said, when you combine it with everything he's showing right here, and with his floatiness and his Keyblade range, and then his spells too, his edge guarding is pretty scary. And then his last special is his counter. So that counter is really good. I mean, counters on any character are definitely good. But this one pretty much stops their momentum, which means off stage for certain characters, you're just going to be able to edge guard them. So for characters who have damaging moves to get back to the stage, his edge guarding is going to be so good when you combine it with everything, including this counter. His counter actually looks pretty nice too. It looks like it has a lot of range on its hit and a lot of knockback power. And looks like the animation starts up pretty fast. I'm interested to see though, if you don't hit anything, how quickly you can get out of the animation. If it's like Joker's and you can get out of the animation really quick, it's going to be even more powerful. Or if it's like Sephiroth, where if you don't hit anything, you're in that animation for a while, so you gotta, it's a bit more of a high risk, right? I know this presentation isn't about Sephiroth, but Sephiroth's moves in general are a bit more high risk, high reward, so you have to use them at the right time. Sora's moves, though, however, are looking high reward and low risk, which is really what you want, because basically what Sora's moves are showing is that you're going to be able to throw out a lot of moves, right? And you're not going to necessarily be punished for them because of how quickly you can get out of the animations. So like I said, you can throw out... So this is the end of the presentation. He hasn't shown the final smash yet, but he shows it later, but it's like towards the end of the video, so I'm just going to stop the video here and kind of give you guys my final thoughts on Sora as a character. I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen recording as well. So that's good. I finally did the whole screen recording and video recording setup right. So now I just got to finish up with my final thoughts. So what I was just saying is that with his counter, is that, I'm sorry, not with his counter, is that Sora is a high reward, low risk character, because you can, obviously he has the sword range, right? But just his regular moves, you can start up his attacks earlier because they have long-lasting hitboxes, which means that if you start up your attacks earlier, that means your animation is going to end earlier, which means you can get out of your animation earlier. But honestly, all of his ending animations look like they're super short anyways. So whether it's your regular hits or your spells, right, once you throw out a move, you're able to immediately act afterwards. And so it's like, imagine... there's some characters that are like that. Like some characters that come to mind with certain moves anyways are Pikachu, Zero Suit Samus with certain moves, and Mario, right? So let's just focus on Pikachu and Mario in terms of their aerial games, right? They can constantly throw out aerials or even their smash attacks, and if they miss, they can immediately move afterwards. So it's very hard to punish them if they space it properly, because they don't give you much of a window of opportunity, right? Like you usually have to hit them during their actual move, and their moves come out extremely fast. That's kind of the case with Sora. Sora's moves are going to come out pretty fast, and actually in some ways extremely fast because he can start them up early. But he's not going to have a lot of cooldown, or not cooldown, but rather in lag on his animations, which means you're not going to have opportunity to punish him for throwing out a lot of these moves. And if anything, he's actually going to be walling you out because he can just keep swinging his Keyblade in the air and then, you know, go into a Sonic Sweep or Sonic Blade or whatever to kind of get some distance. So he's definitely a very scary sword character, because sword characters usually they just get like one swing, right? If you're Lucina or Mars, I think their neutral errors like they like swing twice, right? But Sora can do this multi-hit combo. I'm really interested to see if you can stall the multi-hit, right? Like if you can go swing once and then wait and then swing twice and then wait and then swing three, or if you have to kind of go 1, 2, 3, right? Or if you can go 1, 2, 3. You know, if you can change the timing of your multi-hit combos. If you can, that's going to be even better. Even if you can't, it's still going to be really, really good. But yeah, he's a high reward, low risk character just because of the simple fact that, from what I can tell, all of his moves don't have much in lag on them. And honestly, their startup isn't that long either. So he's going to be able to throw out moves really fast and then move afterwards really fast. Like I'm not sure if you saw it in the presentation, but after he shot out his fire spell, he was immediately able to almost like run behind it in some fashion and do his dash attack. His dash attack honestly looks like a lot of fun. It looks like a Mario's, but possibly he slides longer. And it may have a bigger hitbox because his foot is a lot bigger. You know, like Sora's shoe. But that dash attack looks like a lot of fun too. But anywho, I think he's going to be an extremely strong character. He reminds me of Joker as a character, not in terms of their play style, but in terms of how Joker doesn't have really any weaknesses. Like, there's nothing you can really take advantage of as Joker. You just have to like play the game, right? Play neutral, if you want to call it that, and just play versus Joker, play the character, or play the player who's playing Joker, right? Because Joker has answers to just about everything and no real disadvantages that you can really force. And what I mean by that, like, let's take a character I know very well is Sephiroth, right? So Sephiroth, in my opinion, he's a high reward but high risk character. So Sephiroth's moves have a lot of startup on them, and depending on where you hit with his moves, they have a lot of startup and they have a lot of in lag on them too. So if you throw out a move at the wrong time, right, even just hitting someone's shield, you know, too close or at like the middle of his sword, for example, they can punish you. Like, before you can roll away, before you can act out of your move, even your side B, which comes out super fast, if you use it on their shield up close, they're going to be able to grab you or do some type of punish on you, right? So when I say high risk, high reward, is that, yeah, his moves have a lot of damage and a lot of range, but if you misspace them even just once, the enemy is going to be able to get a free punish on you because you literally can't move after you're hit before they can hit you, right? So Joker and Sora aren't like that. Joker doesn't really have any, so that's like Sephiroth's weakness, right? But Joker doesn't have a weakness like that. The closest you can say that Joker has a weakness, honestly, is like maybe his aerials don't have that much range, right? So if you have a sword character, you may be able to have an advantage over him in those situations, but it's still not a weakness because of the rest of his kit allows him to kind of play around that, right? It's not like a very damaging, drastic weakness. And that's the same with Sora. After Sakurai just presented all of his moves, currently I can't find a major weakness in Sora. Like, yeah, you could say he's lightweight, but according to some info I found online, looks like he's not as lightweight as Sephiroth. And I've been playing a lot of Sephiroth, and Sephiroth's pretty lightweight. So if you're heavier than Sephiroth, then you're doing a good job. So you could say, like I said, his lightweight is a disadvantage, but him being lightweight doesn't help you land a hit on him, basically, right? It doesn't help you in the neutral game. And as I said, Sora looks like very high reward and low risk because his moves are very strong. He has a lot of combo potential. You know, he can literally up B in what seems like up B out of shield, which is going to be super good. Like, any out of shield is always good. But then if he messes it up, he can just Sonic Blade back to stage after his up B because he doesn't go into a free fall animation. So it's basically stuff like that, you know, the fact that he can throw out moves and then move immediately afterwards, and his moves come out pretty fast. His fire and thunder spell come out slow, but like they come out fast enough and with proper spacing. Like you shouldn't be using them up close anyways, because if you're that up close, I mean, not that you shouldn't, depends on the situation. But if you're that close, like I said, you have your actual Keyblade. You have a sword ranged weapon that has multi hits and long lasting hitboxes and a counter. So like you're very powerful in the close range too. So Sora is powerful at close range. You can't really just zone him out because of his floatiness and his mobility in the air, plus the range of his sword. He can be like other sword characters where he kind of falls on top of your shield and kind of just like zones or walls you out with proper spacing once he's close. And then also even on the ground with his counter, he can approach you from the ground too. So you can't really just zone him out with a long range character. I don't think so either. Especially if they don't have a counter too, because once he gets set up, he can force movement out of them with his fire spell and then follow up with whatever he wants to after that, right? So at medium and long ranges, he's also very good. At close range, he's also very good. And then his offstage game, right? Even if you get him off stage, his air game looks to be the best in the game, basically. So even if you get him off stage, he's not at a disadvantage there. So I don't really see any areas where Sora is at a disadvantage. It doesn't mean that in every situation he's at an advantage, right? But he's definitely not, well, depending on the matchups, obviously, right? You can always say, well, this person's stronger than Sora in this area. Yeah, okay. You can do a comparison side by side with that with like any character. But in general, Sora doesn't really have a weakness that I can see. Like if you're playing Sephiroth versus him, you may be able to use the range of your sword, right? To kind of hit him in certain areas. But that's still not technically a weakness because of his counter, and he can, just like any other character can basically play a more defensive style. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on Sora. I think he's going to be a very good character, if not one of the best in the game. I guess my prediction, I'm going to put him as, I'm just going to say top 3 in the game, because I think it just really depends on the player and the matchup, obviously. But he doesn't really have any weaknesses, so he's like Joker in that sense. So, maybe even top 1. I hesitate to say he's going to be the best in the game just because I want to play the character first, but I do think he's going to be the best in the game. Actually, I'll just go ahead and say I do think he's going to be like one of the characters that are considered the best in the game. That's going to be in that conversation. I'm going to be playing him not because of that reason, though that is definitely a plus, but because I really love the character and I'm excited that he came out. The current character that I play right now is Sephiroth, and I've been looking for a second character. I was either going to play Kazuya most likely or Joker, but honestly with Sora's addition to the game, I'm going to have to go with him. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed the analysis. I know that was very long-winded. If you have any questions or any thoughts you want to add to your reaction to the reveal or Sora's addition to the game and your thoughts on his moveset, please put them in the comments. We'd love to have a conversation about it. And yeah, so as a final thought, I think Sora is a perfect fit for the final character. And I think he is going to be an extreme amount of fun to play, and that he's going to definitely be vying for that top spot from a competitive standpoint. I'm just going to give it to him as the top spot just because he's so high risk. Not high risk. He's so high reward, low risk. Like, personally, I think Sephiroth is actually one of the best characters in the game, but I will admit with his high risk, high reward, just the fact that he has that high risk means you have to play, in some ways, a very perfect game. Whereas characters like Sora, it looks like you don't have to necessarily play a perfect game. If you do play a perfect game, awesome, right? But if you do mess up and you throw an attack at the wrong time, it's not the end of the world, right? Because of how quickly you can act out of them. Or just the fact that his animations are faster and cover more area around him, you can throw out more attacks, because you see a lot of characters, a lot of Smash characters that just keep throwing out attacks because it's very safe, right? It cuts off your enemy's options and you're not going to be punished for it. Sora's going to be able to do that. From a personal standpoint, I'm happy for that, because since I do play Sephiroth, I want a character like Sora where I can throw out more moves and not necessarily be punished for it, and that they have more areas. But I'll get maybe into a Sephiroth analysis in another video. So yeah, happy that Sora's in the game and hope you enjoyed this analysis. Thank you.